Hi, honey. It's Mom. Hi. I know we haven't spoken in a while, and I just wanted to check that you're okay. Okay. I love you. Email or call me, please. Bye. Hi. Hi. Dad and me are getting a little worried. We called your work, but they said you don't work there anymore. You know, if you need money, you can just give us a call. Please get back in touch. Bye. Hi. This is her mom. If you know where she is, can you please call us? We just want to know she's okay. Thank you. Please, call us.
Vous êtes Hakim?
Ouais.
Alors, vous parlez anglais?
Yes, I speak English.
Great. I've been trying to get back in contact with your colleague from the BNF, Nemo. Yeah, she's been editing together some audio for a podcast, had released some of it. I worked with her in Phildonan for a while. And she was trying to pull it all together, and then we lost touch. Are you still there? I said I'm trying to get in touch with Nemo. Okay, so you're telling me, this is it. These are her recordings, and I'm supposed to. Well, we don't even know if. Well, I'll release what we've got, but I don't know if it's gonna make any. Attendez, s'il vous plaît, pardon. Okay. Lesser of two evils will pull it all together.
So, yeah. I don't know at this point whether I'm just doing this for myself or if I'm going to make a podcast out of this. I mean, everyone has podcasts these days, and who wants to listen? So, yeah, Let me try this again. Let me take it from the top. Maybe if I pick a theme tune, that would make it like a real podcast, wouldn't it? I'm not going to be a perfectionist about this. I could be, but I'm not. Patrick always said that. I decided against a theme tune as such, but I think a brief introduction is fitting. Well, hi there to whoever is listening or might be listening someday, or maybe just hi to myself. Hi, self. I speak in French enough in my job, so I thought here I could express myself in English because I still think in English for the most part. My job is to essentially clean up old audio recordings. That sounds somewhat simplistic, I guess, but I should make it clear that these are very old recordings.
I time travel every day. I start out at Colonel Fabian Metro Station, change at Nation, and then again at Bercy, unless I'm feeling adventurous, and then I walk across the river, and then I'm up several flights of stairs to Près de Jardin, to my little box of an office, where I think back to a time before the internet, before television, before sound film, before radio, to a period that roughly coincides with the invention of the phonograph, which was the late 1880s, and widespread gramophone/phonograph use, sort of early 1900s.
Let me play you something.
Nemo gets up at this point and starts playing a recording of opera diva Adelina Patti, an EMI acetate disc she bought off eBay. The recording is a little difficult to hear, so we're going to skip ahead to where Nemo tells us about the
discs and what I was specifically brought in to do. It's France, so there's bureaucracy and it's complicated, but essentially the work is a joint project within the larger BNF and the Bibliothèque Musée de l'Opéra National de Paris. The work is to do with the Paris Opera, the Palais Garnier site. In 1907, some gramophone discs of opera stars like Patti and Nellie Melba and Caruso and some other singers were buried for 100 years in the cellars of the opera. Anyway, once they were dug up, someone needed to come in and clean up the recordings and digitize them. So that was done. And then in 1912, they thought it would be a good idea to bury some more recordings. And in case we forgot how to use this technology in 100 years' time, they buried instructions and a gramophone and were even thoughtful enough to provide replacement needles. Because, needles on gramophones wear down. So far, so good. Sorry about that. Anyway, back to what I was saying. The 1907 recordings and the 1912 recordings were buried beneath the opera, but someone at some point dug up 2 of the 1912 urns and stole their contents. So who knows where those ended up? We don't know. But after that, all of the recordings were kept safe in the archives, now the Bibliothèque Musée. But when the time came to digitize everything, they found, in addition to what was supposed to be on the catalog, 32 gramophone recordings minus the 2 urns that got tampered with.
This is the mystery. We have all of this documentation about the voix vivant, these opera recordings buried for over 100 years. But where did these other cylinders come from?
Who recorded them? And maybe, more importantly, what's on them? Because it's not music. At least the first one I've been working with. I've had a first attempt to clean it up, and it's not looking good. It's probably easiest if you listen to it yourself. It's going to take some work. And I'll be helping out with the digitization of those 32 gramophone recordings from 1912. But this cylinder is kind of intriguing, If I didn't know any better. Well, anyway, I'll be updating you with my progress. Perhaps we can unmask these voices and who they belong to.
This was Nemo's first experiment with theme music.
If you click through the search page on the B&F Collections catalog and search for enregistrement sonore, you get 937,004 recordings, 100,000 tape cassettes. Then there are 30 Berliner gramophone discs, and until recently, 3 phonographs of unknown origin. The vast majority of these collections aren't digitized, so whenever there's a desire and some money, they can bring in someone like me with expert knowledge to do what is frankly usually pretty grueling work. Not that I don't enjoy it. I wouldn't do it if I didn't enjoy it. Technical, yes. Boring, no.
Expert knowledge. Expert in old recordings, but not much else. The pool of confession is...
So, I had a breakthrough with that cylinder. I'm going to call it the Volta cylinder, which is catchier than saying that it's kind of like the experimental recordings Alexander Graham Bell was doing at the Volta laboratories in 1881. I think I finally got it to the point where it's intelligible. Here, have a quick listen to what it sounded like before. I've worked hard to try to clean it up. I've tried to transcribe it too. I'll put the transcription up when I upload this episode, so listen to the cleaned up file and read the transcription and see what you think.
You are wasting my time.
You are a guest in my home, and so I entertain you. You want to stand much closer to the apparatus, like this. You must speak very loudly into it. Come.
What is the point of this contraption?
You didn't react this way to the telegraph. I thought you had a belief in the workings of progress.
The telegraph came a long time ago. We were younger men.
You really must speak loudly into the horn.
And you invented all this, did you?
Naturally.
I read the newspapers. I'm not Thomas Edison.
A trifle. This is a design and improvement to my own specifications. You'll believe me when I play it back.
If I had to speculate on an age for these recordings, so it's on a cylinder rather than a disc. That's the first obvious thing. Because based on what the one guy says and what a kind of strange voice he has, I mean, they both sound a bit foreign. It's hard to tell. Anyway, dude A, we'll call him, he seems very full of himself. He's telling the other guy that he improved on Edison's original phonograph design. That in itself, while unusual, isn't unheard of. Once Edison had prototyped the phonograph, other inventors all across Europe and North America wanted to improve upon it because the quality was actually pretty it wasn't very good. So I'm guessing this is early 1880s. That's more than 20 years older than the transcription discs of the opera singers. So does that actually make sense? Was it planted in with the 1912 urn contents and somehow missed on the catalog? And why was it included? It seems to be this random conversation between not actually friends, acquaintances, but dude A must be kind of rich to be able to afford to tinker with cutting-edge technology.
I'm wondering if this is a dead end. Plenty of people, when I was doing my master's, everyone except this one professor who wasn't even in my subject specialism, they do a lot of research on postgrad degrees now and the level of anxiety and panic attacks and the effect on mental health. Let me tell you, it wasn't such a big deal in my day. It could make you feel very isolated.
Oh, well, that's great, Joel. Here I am trying to unearth something big and important. We may never know who these guys are. They'll be less than a footnote on history, and it's not like I was hoping this. You know what? I'll go back to the library. There might be some positive thinking for a change.
So, I've not opted for any theme music this time, as I'm feeling a bit disillusioned about the whole thing. I mean, the BNF and the Bibliothèque Musée are happy with my work, but they've basically decided that the Volta-esque cylinder recordings, and it's not the only oddity, not the only unidentified recording in the urns buried underneath the Opera House, is not really worth anyone's time. It doesn't seem relevant to them as regards to the opera singers' recordings, and I guess I can't really blame them. What they like to do is put it in storage until they've got the time and the funding. I'm on a short-term contract, and then it's on to something closer to home, which is cool. It's just a bit frustrating when you think you found something. Like, why wouldn't they want to know about Dude A, the guy who said he had bettered Edison's design? I think Alexander Graham Bell was working at the same time Dude A was, and it stands to reason that he might be some unsung hero of sound recording. Do guys like that just disappear? My friend who works on the other side of the building in the Allée Julien Camp, actually she's the one who got me this job in the first place, found a book published in 1908, which she thought might fit the time period, might shed some light on this. It's called Memoirs of a Manager, and it's by
Armand Moncharmin,
who was one of the Paris Opera's managers during the 1880s. Now, I'm as much of a fan of free, full-text and Project Gutenberg as anyone, but yeah, I was really surprised to find out that there was an audiobook reading of this book. I found it online. Apparently,
Armand Moncharmin
had powerful friends, so that's how he got the job as manager of the Paris Opera. He was a good writer, though, and had done a little newspaper reporting on the variety theater scene. Okay, here goes. Have a listen to Memoirs of a Manager.
Memoirs of a Manager by Armand Moncharmin. Chapter 1. During the farewell ceremony for Messieurs Debienne and Poligny, these exalted gentlemen were passing on to Richard and myself the 2 little master keys that we would need. Monsieur Poligny advised us to have new locks made, but it was not clear until much later what was meant by this. The transfer of managerial powers had quite naturally taken place the day before. It had been amicable, to such an extent that from scarcely knowing each other, we had become friendly, bestowing quite sincerely upon each other resounding compliments. All the informal hints and tips had likewise been exchanged, such as how to deal with singers, concierges, and even the leading ballerinas like La Sorelli, who had danced so memorably in Polyeucte on the night of the gala. These redoubtable fellows had remarked, and quite rightly we soon came to see, that the troops of performers in the opera were similar to the groups of family contained in the home, or members of the same family, where a climate of inequalities was bound to pervade, with its petty jealousies and rivalries. I was put in mind of such a theme when recently workmen were digging in the basement of the opera to bury phonographic recordings of singers' voices.
That's the gramophone recordings. Moncharmin didn't say anything about random inventors attached to the opera who were making experimental recordings. However, he does make mention of
a man known as the Persian in fashionable circles, well known to opera subscribers.
I did think, what was this so-called Persian doing hanging around the opera house? Could he have been involved in the recordings, or was he simply a music lover? And you may be wondering, why am I jumping to all these conclusions? For one thing, the Volta cylinders, Dude A says to Dude B, and we have no reason to disbelieve him, that it is being recorded in a home, not the opera house. So maybe it has nothing to do with the opera house and is in with the urns due to some mistake or coincidence. But Moncharmin makes reference to some kind of mysterious music that was rumored to exist, was played once and never repeated.
Occasional mysteries and mishaps occurred, one of which involved the accidental death of a scene shifter. When the stagehands found the unfortunate man's body hanging on some stage scenery from Le Croix de la Horde, they said that they heard singing all around them, like the singing of the dead. Then, as theatrical folk often do, being so superstitious, they changed their story. It sounded like music that burned. When I asked the chief repetiteur to be more specific, he mumbled something about Don Juan and changed the subject.
La musique qui brûle. Music that burns. That's quite strange. That whole passage starts so mysteriously and then fades out. I don't know, I haven't found any other reference to music that burns. What?
The Shattered Podcast is hosted by Nemo and is the lesser of two evils production 2022.